While there have been horror classics over the decades, it's a genre that has been mostly relegated to the underground. Until recently, it is now mainstream cinema with scary movies in nearly every subgenre. Here's our guide to 13 upcoming horror movies to look forward to in 2020 and beyond. No, it's not an actual porno. This Shudder exclusive film follows a group of seemingly wholesome young movie theater employees being tempted and terrorized by a sex demon. It's an 80s influenced horror comedy that played well at festivals earlier this year and should provide some meta humor for midnight viewing.
That's why I don't watch porno.
The Empty Man is based on a graphic novel about a pandemic that causes rage, hallucinations, dementia, and death, and has become the obsession of cults. With both this movie and the new adaptation of The Stand arriving in December, it's looking to be a timely month for pandemic horror. The 2019 movie Escape Room wasn't really a perfect film, but it had promise, and it made a ton of money, so no surprise here, it was quickly greenlit for a sequel. We don't have a trailer and no storyline has been revealed, but it's probably safe to assume that the movie will involve a group of people once more having to escape from some deadly rooms. Maybe more rooms and more deadly. We'll have to wait and see. When Guillermo del Toro is attached to a film as a producer, it's usually worth checking out, and the next movie that has his name featured on it is Antlers. Antlers is a story of a teacher in Oregon who is convinced one of her students is concealing a supernatural creature who is picking off locals one by one. The rom-zom classic Shaun of the Dead proved Edgar Wright is a living legend and a huge horror fan. His next film, Last Night in Soho, kinda reminds me of his faux movie trailer Don't from Tarantino's Grindhouse. It's set in 1960s London and takes influence from English psychological horror classics such as Don't Look Now and Peeping Tom. And if that's not enough for those Anglo nerds, the Dr. Matt Smith is also in it. With A Quiet Place, Jim Halpert proved that he wasn't just a talented paper salesman, but also a pretty good filmmaker. The movie was a tense and fun theater experience that transcended its gimmicky setup of, make a sound and a monster will get you. Jim, also known as John Krasinski to some people, is directing the sequel, and he hinted that it will expand the setting, stating that the world will be a different and unique experience. It was definitely a surprise when it was announced that comedian Chris Rock would be co-writing and starring in the next Saw movie. Turns out he's a big horror fan, and he pitched this new story idea to Lionsgate himself. In this movie, Rock plays a cop, while Sam Jackson plays his father. And a couple familiar faces are back too, namely Jigsaw's Hannah Anderson and Saw 4's Allison Luther. The Conjuring universe is now the most successful horror franchise ever made, and the third main movie in this series arrives next year. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga return as paranormal experts Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, as the movie's title suggests, take on cases of demonic possession. What to expect? I don't really know. Wilson has stated that the film will have a much different feel to the previous movies, and that's about all we got. In only 7 years, the Purge series has produced 4 movies, 2 seasons of a spin-off TV show, and a 5th film is on the way. They're claiming that this will be the last one, but given that 2018's prequel, The First Purge, was the most successful of the films, it's kinda hard to believe that Blumhouse will stop here. But either way, the Forever Purge will pick up where 2016's election year left off. As well as directing those critic-favorite movies Get Out and Us, Jordan Peele has kept busy writing and producing a slate of other projects. He's co-written this new version of the 90s horror classic Candyman, which is based on a story by Clive Barker.
If you say his name 5 times while looking in the mirror, he appears in the reflection and kills you.
It's being described as a spiritual sequel, and the first trailer reveals that we will be seeing the return of Tony Todd in the title role.
Next Halloween, he kills.
The huge success of 2018's Halloween reboot/sequel proved that there's still life in this unkillable slasher franchise. Director David Gordon Green has shot the next 2 movies back to back. The first will be out in October of 2021, and the third movie, the almost certainly inaccurately titled Halloween Ends, will land in 2022.
You like scary movies?
Wes Craven's postmodern slasher Scream was one of the most influential horror movies of the 1990s. It was followed by 3 sequels and an anthology TV show. It's not known if this next Scream film will be a sequel or a complete remake or maybe a continuation of any of the TV series, but despite not knowing much about the project, it being directed by the team who wrote that fun 2019 horror film Ready or Not adds some promise to the project. Blumhouse Productions is one of modern horror's biggest companies, and it was 2007's Paranormal Activity that helped kickstart that run. The 6th movie was released back in 2015, and producer Jason Blum recently confirmed that Paranormal Activity 7 is now in the works, and that Christopher Landon, who wrote 4 of the previous Paranormal Activity movies, as well as directed 2 Happy Death Day movies, is working on this one. And that's a lot of horror movies with the release date set. If you think there's one we missed, let me know in the comments below. And if you like this content, hit that like and subscribe, and keep coming back to GameSpot Universe for even more news about the stuff you love.